Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Providend's Money Wisdom Podcast. I'm your host, Isaac, Client Advisor at Providend. Today's episode is the 7th chapter of our mini-series titled The Story of Our Clients' Wealth Journey. In our first episode, we talked about who our clients typically are, their concerns, and their need for a trusted wealth advisor. In the second episode, we talked about the potential reasons for the lack of trust in the advisory industry and the need for sound wealth advice. In our third episode, we discussed how Providend was set up to be the trusted advisor to our clients to allow us to guide them through a minefield of misinformation with honest, independent, and competent advice. In our fourth episode, we talked about our discovery process and why it is important for us to understand our prospective clients on a deeper level and to guide them to make life decisions before financial decisions. In our fifth episode, we talked about the presentation of analysis meeting, where we consolidate and crunch the numbers and present various scenarios to our clients. And in our previous episode, we talked about the presentation of plan meeting, which is the start of the implementation phase of our advisory process and the first meeting that we make an investment recommendation. Today, we will be discussing about advanced planning, which occurs during our 45-day meeting. Joining me today is Evelyn Goh, Deputy CEO and Chief Advisory Officer here at Providend. Hi Evelyn, great to have you back.
Hi Isaac, thanks for having me.
Right, so after all the financial aspects that of the wealth plan is in place, right? So I went through all the different meetings that we have done, and the wealth plan is already presented to the clients. What is the next step in our process?
Well, now that the client has done up, we have done up that comprehensive wealth plan for them, we congratulate them, and then we all go for lunch. No, I'm just kidding. Right. So at this phase, the clients would have just invested their money. So as part of our turbulence management plan, we want to take some time to check in with the client to ensure that they are feeling okay, especially when markets are a bit more volatile, right? Some clients may be anxious, but they may not expressed it. So we think it's important to just not take for granted, but just to check in to see that to see if they are okay, and if need be, then we'll spend some time talking with them to assure, to calm, and to maybe to give more information, because the objective is really that they will have a comfortable journey to stay invested, to reap the returns of investing. Yeah, and once that part is done, then what we'll do is to talk to the client and introduce them to this very important aspect of advanced planning, which is really to kind of close the loop of our comprehensive planning. So after that part is done, we will then move on to discuss with the clients the very important aspects of end-of-life planning, estate and legacy planning. So we call this the advanced planning. Not that we plan to die, but really we want to do this part of the thinking and the planning process while we are still in a good mental, emotional, and physical state, such that our clients can live their best lives with peace of mind.
So is advanced planning simply then just writing a will or deciding who gets what after we pass?
A lot of people think that is it. Right, because there's always this part about wealth distribution that is part of the whole equation of wealth management. But we will say that writing a will, doing your CPF nomination is part of a bigger piece. Yeah. So as mentioned earlier, how Providend thinks about advanced planning is really three pieces: end-of-life planning, legacy, and estate planning. So end-of-life planning is really planning for that stage where we are still physically around, but we may not be in a good physical or mental state. Okay, and therefore you need to look into things like advanced care planning, where you kind of decide on what sort of treatment you like to have when one is in a critical stage in terms of illness, and then there's also that part about lasting power of attorney if one is not able to, loses mental capacity, right? Then they have to kind of like decide who will be their caregivers, who will manage their financial affairs. Yeah, so that's the end of life planning part. And then we have your legacy, which is more intangible. It's more about the passing on of values, beliefs, stories, and that affects how you want to distribute your assets, which is really the estate planning part, which is more distribution of your assets.
We discussed the technicalities of estate planning and end-of-life planning extensively in Season 2, Episode 16 and 20. So for those who are interested, you can find the links to these episodes in the description of this podcast. Right, so Evelyn, so when a client wants to start the advanced planning process, what can he or she expect?
In terms of process, it's actually very similar to the wealth advisory part, where there is a need to look into discovery. There will be a discovery phase, and then having gone through that discovery to really understand the needs and concerns, there will be the solutioning, then discussing of the solutioning, and then the implementation. So what clients can expect will be the same level of care and involvement that the CA, the client advisor, will go through with the client through these different aspects, and really being the trusted advisor to understand the needs, and then also to work with the external partners such as the law firms right through the implementation of all the different solutions.
Right. So can a client come to us to do advanced planning only? Like, let's say they don't create a wealth plan with us. Can they just write in to say, okay, I want to do advanced planning, be it a will, setting up of trust, etc. Is it possible?
Yes, it is possible. But of course, because we don't have a prior relationship with them, we don't know the extent of their wealth, we do not know their needs and concerns, unlike our clients whom we have walked through, right? That very thorough process to understand their life goals and what's important, their purpose and whatnot. So for clients who come in fresh just for legacy planning, the process will be longer, right? Because we'll need to spend more time on the discovery phase.
Right. Thanks for sharing, Evelyn. So what are the objectives of these meetings, right? You mentioned there's a few meetings with the clients for advanced planning. Yeah. What are we trying to achieve from these meetings?
Okay, the objectives of the various meetings is essentially to really have a thorough understanding of the needs of the clients. So for the discovery phase, we actually structure our sessions using the 5 Ws and 1 H. So that's the who, what, when, why, and how. Right, so who will be all the key people involved? Who are the beneficiaries that the client would want to pass the assets to? Who are the key people that they will entrust? So it will be involving like guardians for young children. It will be the executors, the trustees, of the various legal staff or donees for the LPA, right? Then what are the assets involved? Where are these assets located? Where are the beneficiaries located, right? And in terms of like when would they want the distributions to be given, whether it's streams of income, whether it will be lump sum, when do they want this payments to be distributed, and how do they want to be taken care of, right? If let's say they are mentally incapacitated, do they want to kind of like stay at home, go for home care, or do they want to go to a nursing care, so these are like the questions that will guide us to find out about the client's thoughts, and intentions on this. But there is that very important question of why, right? Why would they want to, why is their decision made in a certain way, right? And that will lead us to help us to understand, what is their motivation? What is the values? What is the intent that the clients have? And that's really where, the deep conversations will come in to really understand the client's deepest concerns, their deepest their considerations. And I think our role is really to be that sounding board for the client, to find out what are the values, what are the beliefs that they hold dear, that they want to pass on to their loved ones. And actually, between husband and wife, they may not agree sometimes, and that's where our role is also to facilitate that discussion. And we have situations where, even adult children can come in, so that they can have a discussion. And I think ultimately what we want is that we want to have a, very deep understanding, essentially of, where this client, wants to achieve, right? Because what we want to see is, or rather is to help them ensure that whatever that is important to them in terms of their values, in terms of their beliefs, is passed on through the way their assets are given.
Right. I suppose the why would be the longest part of the discussion, right? Of course, who, what, when, where is important, but judging for what you have just said, why is it this way? Of course. I would assume most of the time it's supposed to be fair, right? But sometimes it's not so straightforward. It's not just like giving away, like let's say $5 million worth of cash where you can evenly distribute it, right?
It also depends on the kind of assets that this 5 million is in, right? Yeah. Because if it's a property, I've seen cases where clients have like a few properties that they intend to pass on to their children, but these properties are of unequal value, right? Different market value. Yeah. Then how do you kind of equalize it? But I think this kind may be still easier, to address. But there are situations where in the family, the children may be in a different state, right? Some are are doing very well. In their career, and they can fend for themselves because the parents may have also supported them through their whole academic pursuit, right? Yeah. Such that they are able to have this very good job and all that. But the sibling may not be so academically inclined, and therefore may need more support, right, for their family. So this idea about fairness, it's maybe for Asians, we are more particular, it must be of equal value. We equate fairness to equal value, but it may not be, right? So then that's where, having that opportunity to discuss this openly between husband and wife. And I think for us, we had that very, I would say, very special role to be able to kind of facilitate this discussion.
Yeah, and especially when there's business involved also, right? Which beneficiary is actually the best to run the business. But let's say, if you give the business to this beneficiary, okay, how do you equalize it with the other beneficiaries, for example? So of course, doing all this, equalizing it is one part, but explaining why is also important in case the beneficiaries get the wrong message or there's any misunderstanding to the reasoning of the why things are
definitely
gifted this way.
So I think having that family discussion, the parents will then be able to share their thought process, what are the concerns, what are the considerations, of that, and the at the same time the adult children have that opportunity, right, to assure the parents that they understand. Okay, or if they don't understand, then then they can kind of like have a open discussion and communication about it to reach that state that will be a harmonious state for the family. But what we have been discussing is also assuming that the relationships within the family is actually good, right? Yeah. Sometimes it's not like that. Sometimes there may be strained relationships. Sometimes there may be misunderstandings, and it's not so straightforward. And that's why, just now we talked about the process, of advanced planning. It's actually not one meeting can handle type. It's not as straight. Of course, for families where the needs are really fairly straightforward, their finances are pretty straightforward, then it might be maybe 1-2 meetings you can settle it. But where family situations are more complex, where there is more wealth involved, it creates more complexity that requires a lengthier process. Yeah, so that's why it's advanced planning. It's not like a one meeting. Yep.
Hi listeners, thank you so much for your ongoing support. some long-time listeners might know that the inspiration behind this entire podcast was our CEO Chris's book titled Money Wisdom: Simple Truths for Financial Wellness. If you are interested in getting your own signed copy, please check out the link in the show notes for more information. Thank you, and let's get back to the episode. Right. So you mentioned that there's who, the 5 W's and 1 H, right? Who, what, when, where, why, and of course how. But that's the objectives, right? But we typically get the answers through a more open dialogue, right? So rather than follow a structured questionnaire. So why is it important that we do it this way?
Because, we are dealing with human emotions. We are dealing with human relationships. We are talking about, the ensuring that clients' values and their deepest desires, or their beliefs, or something that they want to pass on, to the family can be expressed, right? So it's not just a mechanical, get this A plus B equals C and done, and then that's it. So that's where the 5 W's and 1 H is really just a structure to guide us. But as been talking, right, it's not so straightforward. I ask a question. It's just like an interview, right? It's not like, I just ask this and that's
Who
it.
are the beneficiaries?
Yeah, but correct. Yeah. But it's like the advisor need to have a certain level of curiosity, inquisitiveness, empathy, or a certain level of experience, to be able to kind of draw out from the client, maybe certain feelings or thoughts that may not be so apparent to them even, right? It's like maybe when we notice that they say that, it's unequal distribution, or we've seen cases where, certain child don't get anything, right? Then the advisor would have to then ask the client, can you share with me, what are your thoughts about why, you're not giving to this child? And then they may then share with you their story, right? Okay, and then, so it's not like, and this kind of thing is not like a one sentence thing, and then we come next, let's move on. Okay, but we want to allow the client the space to talk. And as they talk, they may be processing their own emotions, their own feelings, and that's on relationship. But values, some clients are very clear. What are the values they want to pass on? Some clients may not be so clear, and they may have certain preference between husband and wife, and we need to talk it through, right? And then the more they talk, they may, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, right? Okay, so that's where it's pretty dynamic. It's really more about a discussion, conversation that may take place over several meetings. That's why the discovery phase is usually the longest phase, because once we can have a very clear understanding, the rest is more straightforward, okay? Because then it's about the solutioning, discussing of the solutioning, whether they're okay with it, and then working with the external partners like the law firms or the trust company, to get the solutions implemented.
Right, that's why they call it the discovery stage, right? I mean, for discovery, it's not that we are just, it's not for us to discover what the client can tell us straight away, right? So discovery is for us to facilitate a conversation, to get them thinking, and for them to discover themselves also, right?
Yes.
And it's really for us to just make sure that, we are a sounding board during that process, and also to give our thoughts on certain things, and and maybe that could help prevent certain misunderstanding, right, when we are crafting the solution for
absolutely. And it could also be a time where after we may just leave the clients with certain questions. They go back and process. They may come back, and then we discuss again. So, for example, the case of like if the child is disinherited, right, as in not giving anything, the questions that we may ask would be, what would you want your child to, what kind of feelings would your child have? Will that be a concern? If you still love your child, would you want to consider giving this child a gift, right? To let the child know that you have not forgotten him or her, and you still love her, right?
Yeah. So from your experience from doing so many legacy planning cases and advanced planning with our clients, do you think that there's something uniform that our clients ultimately want?
I think we can generalize to say that for the end of life planning, it's about dignity of life, right? So if let's say I'm down physically, right, I want to know that hey, my affairs are taken care of. There's someone there to take care of me, okay. And as importantly, if not more importantly, in my view, okay, is that I want to take away the stress from my children, for example. Yeah. Okay. So, for example, advanced care plan. If a person is critically ill, right, and if they have not done that plan, right, then the children may have to be the one to decide. Okay. And different kids may have different, ideas or opinions of whether to treat or not to treat. So I take or share the example of Chris, our CEO. This is not private news because he has actually shared this right during our webinars and all that. Unfortunately his father has to go through 4 heart attacks, and after his 3rd heart attack, the hospital actually suggested that he meet with the advanced care facilitator. Okay, and the father expressly state that. When he has his next heart attack, not to resuscitate him. And I think that, and the kids are all there. The kids understand, right? Okay, and I think that takes away the burden and the stress and maybe even the guilt, that the children will have to go through if they have to make this kind of decision. It's not an easy decision to make for a loved one. Yeah. So I would say dignity of life, take away the stress, okay, and the burden from the children for the end of life planning part of things. And then in terms of the legacy estate, we talk so much about passing on of values, beliefs, but I think it's also let's say if it's me, it's my chance of telling my children that I love them very much, that even the passing on of my wealth, my assets, okay, it's an expression of my love for them, right? So we know that it is not about just money, right? We want our children, we want our loved ones. For singles, it may be your niece, your nephews. I have clients who are singles and they want to give their niece, their nephews, their grandnieces, their grandnephews, because we want our loved ones to remember us with beautiful memories, with fond memories, right? And we want them to also be able to then feel our love, right, when they inherit the assets and know of, the values and are reminded of the value that we have shared with them, that we have lived out, in our time with them. Yeah. So I think that is what most clients would want.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point about giving to even your grandniece and all that. Sometimes they are not even of the age to understand, right, when by the time they receive it. But if you leave a message to them,
yes,
when they grow up, they actually know what's the reason why they receive this, and they will also have that part of you that will always be with them, and they will always remember you, even though they might be too young at the time of your passing, but actually it's quite sweet to receive that.
Rather than
that's
just
purely, estate planning per
that's
se,
right.
Where you just, I just receive an inheritance from someone.
Yeah. So you're right. So it's like we always encourage our clients to kind of write a love note, right? It's like a love letter to all your beneficiaries, to share with them your thoughts, you share with them your love. Right, so like you said, okay, you can even say that I love you, grandniece, nephew, and I pass on this because I want you. I believe in education, and I want you to not to have to worry about pursuing the love for learning, right? As an example, such that when they grow up, they look at it, they will remember that wow, I have this grand aunt, or this grand uncle, who really loves me. Yeah.
Right, yeah, it's definitely a very beautiful thing, when it comes to doing all this advanced planning for our clients. And also, I think as advisors, we feel that it's a privilege that we are able to do planning for our clients, right? I mean, by doing advanced planning, we'll get to know their life goals, their deepest needs and concerns, not only for themselves, right? Their deepest needs and concerns of their loved ones, of their future generations as well. So I think knowing that they trust us to craft a good plan for them is really very heartwarming.
I think it's a privilege. Yeah, we see it as a privilege to be able to be involved, in this whole process. And we see it as a chance to also positively impact our clients' families, because it could be a chance to restore relationships, right? To improve on, conversations within families, right? Because sometimes they may love each other, but they just don't have that chance to kind of have an open dialogue or open discussion. And sometimes we're just second guessing each other, right? But walking through this process, having that conversations, is actually very meaningful. Yeah. So like you mentioned, it's really, a honor, a privilege that we as an advisor get a chance to do.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's something that we have to cherish, and of course to make sure that we do a good job for our clients. That's all the time we have today. Thank you so much for your time and insights again, Evelyn. It's always a pleasure to have you on.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So to all our listeners, I hope you enjoyed our episode on advanced planning. If you like this episode, please follow and subscribe to our podcast if you have not done so already. As always, thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next episode. All analysis, views or opinions from interviews, recommendations and other information broadcasted, podcasted or published herein are provided for general information purposes only. Information expressed does not take into account any specific situation, particular needs or objectives, and should not be construed as specific advice or a recommendation. Information has been obtained from sources that are deemed to be reliable, but their accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal or tax professional before taking any action. Provident Limited does not accept any liability for any loss whatsoever arising from any use of the information broadcasted, or published herein. All contents and information contained herein may not be copied or reproduced in whole or in part by any means without prior written consent of Provident Limited.